1, 2. So welcome to the Winter Series, and this is going to be the last episode of Winter Series 3. If you've not seen the other episodes, they're all live on our DNA YouTube channel. So I'm here at the awesome, I was about to say Farlow's then. So I'm here at the awesome Orchid Lake, and we're lucky enough to be in the Alamo swim. Now join me on this session is Dan Gay. He's a competition winner from Facebook, on our Facebook page a few weeks back, who ran a competition for someone unfortunate enough to fish alongside myself, but fortunate enough to fish in the Alamo swim. So yeah, we've both got our rods out. I let Dan choose, and the nutter choose the left-hand side, so he's definitely going to blank, but if I end up catching a few, I will definitely allow him to poach me up on the right-hand side. But all jokes aside, the left-hand side was the better side of the swim a few weeks back when I was in here. So yeah, good shout for the pair of us. Hasn't done a bite for a couple of days here, and again, it is Baltic like it has been throughout the whole of the Winter Series. So it'll be nice to see out the winter with a couple of fish on this session, fingers crossed. Yeah, we've got all three rods out in the water at the moment. It is mega cold. There's a bit of a front coming in at the moment, a bit of cloud cover that wasn't forecast. So that might bring a few fish maybe, but in the meantime, I'm gonna jump in the Alamo hut where it's nice and warm, hover over the stove. I brought about 50 cans of gas with me, so I'm gonna be mega warm this session, and try not to whinge about how cold it is, like I have done throughout the whole of this Winter Series. But yeah, we'll talk about the tactics and everything that you use over on Orchid, because you know, I have been lucky enough to catch the odd fish out of here, so we'll go through all that a little bit later on in the session. In the meantime, it's Baltic! Get in that hut. Welcome to a bonus edition then of the Winter Series. What you might notice is that I'm not actually sat in the Alamo swim at the moment, and that is because we're shooting this again. Yes, we blanked. So unfortunately, it was such hard work in the Alamo swim. We shot this last month in February. The lake started to freeze, and yeah, it just didn't happen. And you know, as carp anglers, we love to use excuses. So the fact that the lake froze on us, that's my excuse there for us blanking. But it was cold, wasn't it, Dan? Baltic. It was freezing cold, I must admit. And considering how cold it's been this winter, this is the only one that we've actually had to reshoot throughout the whole Winter Series this year. So Dan Gay, who's our lucky winner, that come and fish for me down in the Alamo swim, because nothing happened, we said, look, we'll do a reshoot. So we're back down at Orchid. Thanks to Marsh and Sibbo, they've allowed us to come back down here. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get in the Alamo swim, but we're in Middles at the moment, and Dan's doubled up with me in here. Caught fish out of Middles before in winter, and yeah, I must admit, it looks prime out there at the moment for a few bites. The guy to my left-hand side, he's had a 29-pounder this morning. The guys over on the far bank, they've had a 30-pounder this morning. So there's fish coming out here, there and everywhere around the lake. So Dan's come back, driven all the... What time did you leave this morning? 2:30 in the morning to drive all the way here. What a nutter. So yeah, Dan's come down, he's been up all night to do this reshoot, and fingers crossed there will be a few fish on this one for us to catch, hopefully. So yeah, I must admit, it looks mega out there. Definitely looks good for a few bites. We'll catch up with Dan and his fishing. We've got obviously a bit of footage from the Alamo swim. One bit of footage that I should mention is right at the death on the last shoot, rod's lying on the floor. I managed to hook one. Right, well, unbelievably, you're gonna have to bear with me here because I'm here on my own. But the middle rod has just gone just as I'm packing up. And in typical Mozza format this winter, it fell off. So yeah, a little bit gutted by that, but anyway, distant memory now. Looks mega prime out here. Spring is in the air and it's feeling good for a few bites. So we'll catch up with Dan and his fishing a little bit later on. In the meantime, he's getting his rods out. Mine are already out on the spots, and hopefully there'll be a few fish caught on this one. One of the most asked questions I get on social media for guys that are coming to Orchid is, what bait do I need to take? Now, one of the baits that has caught me constant fish out of Orchid is the Switch. The Switch Hydro Spod Syrup. Sometimes I put the liquid food, sometimes I put the Hydro Spod Syrup. What I'll do is I'll put that into the spod, and then I'll give the spod a good lashing of the Hydro Spod Syrup, so that when you chuck it out into the pond, it goes down to the lake bed instantly. You know, it gets down there before the birds can start diving on it and eating it whilst it's on its way down. So, you know, when it comes to bait, I will definitely not be coming to Orchid without having the Switch in my armoury. If you've got a boilie that you're confident in, I can definitely say to you, you need the Hydro Spod Syrup in your armoury, because they just love it here. I've caught so many fish using that liquid. If I was going to give you any advice on bait, get some Hydro Spod Syrup in your life, the Switch one, put it in your spods and get it out there. So that is a definite must whenever you come to Orchid.
So yeah, I come from Cornwall. I've lived down there and fished down there all my life. Most waters down there are big old waters through the South West Lakes Trust, up to anything from 25 acres up to like 100 acres and big old waters. Lucky enough, I was able to get onto a syndicate water in Cornwall called Lower Tamar, and luckily enough, I had a first good year on there. It's a low stock water at about 35 acres, and I got lucky enough to have a good 70 to 80 fish in my first year down there, which is really good going, seeing to it's a very low stock water, and from the local anglers that told me it was quite a difficult water as well. I managed a lot of 20s out of there, and I was lucky enough to catch a big mirror at 28 pound, which is a massive size fish for down in Cornwall. Once that had finished, I decided to step it up a little bit and go to even bigger water, which is Upper Tamar, which is just up the road, and got a lot of fish in there. Not so many 20s, but bigger fish, hoping to find a few 30s. The lake is 80 acres, not loads of features, it's more of a massive silt bow, to be fair. A lot of the fishing on Upper Tamar is mostly long range work, up to anything from 100 yards to 130 yards. Well, 130 yards to me, I can't really cast much further than that. And as a new user of the DNA baits, really looking forward to taking that down to the southwest to give it a really good go on my local waters. Really looking forward to using the Switch and adding the Spod Syrup to the mix, and hopefully them two together can help me trick one of these bigger fish out of the lake.
So whilst the rods are out and I'm still waiting for something to happen, I thought I'd have a bit of a recap on how the winter series has gone this year. And obviously it's raining now, it's not ideal. theme of the winter series, rain and freezing cold. It's in the title, Lee, it's always going to be difficult. So yeah, to have a recap on the winter series, if this rain will let me finish this piece. Yeah, got off to a bit of a flyer, to be fair. I know we started it a little bit earlier this year. We started it in, I think it was back end of October, that went over to Nar Valley with Luke and Kev. And yeah, that was an epic session. The venue over there, absolutely mega. Some of the fish as well were just incredible from that place. And luckily enough, Luke and Kev managed to catch a few for the cameras, and yeah, it was cool seeing their sort of match style tactics. I've been following a little bit of their stuff this year on the BCAC, and yeah, you know, there's a theme in their angling where they obviously use the flatbed method feeders a lot, and they use them really well, because I tried using them in the Carp Wars that I did last year as well, and failed, massively failed using them flatbeds. So yeah, fair play to them boys. They've got that method down to a T, and they fish it really well wherever they go. They've been to hard waters as well, like I think they've been fishing the Stowe, which is renowned to be, you know, a fairly hard sort of water, and they've been using flatbeds over there. They'd probably kill me for telling you all that, but yeah, I'm sure it was either Luke or Kev. They had 7 fish one evening or one session over there. I think it was a 24-hour session, and he had loads of bites out of there using the flatbed. So yeah, that was a real cool start to the winter series. There was a storm that erupted over there, so you know the filming wasn't the easiest, but you know that video come out really well. And then moving on from there, where did we go? Nar Valley. So yeah, moving on from that, we then went over to Thorpley with Neil Rivers and Cole Palmer. I was about to say Bones and Rivers then, because they always fish together, but no, it was Rivers and Cole, and that was probably the hardest filming I've ever had to do. I cannot explain to you how cold it was when we went over there.
I'm cold enough as it is, yeah?
Neil, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, my hands are freezing.
Does that make it look big?
It was an absolute grueler, but they still managed to catch in the worst of conditions that I've been out in. How the lake never froze, I will never know. So yeah, big up to them two boys for catching on that session, and for the amount of work that they put in as well was absolutely mega. So then moving on to that, Perry Alabaster, got his name right this time. We went over to Elphick, and he's had some mega trips over at Elphick. Every winter, I think he's had 3 or 4 40s almost every winter for the past few years. So, you know, that epic opportunity to get over to Elphick in the hope to try and bag one of the big uns that, well, one of the many big uns that lives in Elphick. So going over there, it was my first time that I'd ever been there. You know, Perry knows the place fairly well, so going off the back of his advice. Perry, really unfortunate for him to have only caught sort of doubles. I think he had one that was scraping £20 maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but for him to have caught so many big uns the past winters and then to have only caught a few doubles, still absolutely epic to catch. Doesn't matter about the size, I suppose, but you do go to them sort of places to catch a big un. And I had that £29 common, which I was absolutely buzzing about. And then for the next morning to come, and again sort of sat on my hands a little bit, to have caught that 35 pounder, I was absolutely elated. You know, proper epic to have caught a big un from Elphick as well. So long old drive over to Elphick, and you know, okay, it's a renowned winter water, it's still winter time, and a lot of places can still be really, really moody. So moving on from there, Farlows. Now I'm probably going to have to clean these lenses a bit. It's raining, it's horrible. You'll have to deal with me here. So yeah, Farlows then. Wow, that was tough. Really, really tough that was. I struggled, you know, from the minute go there, to be honest. it started to snow. It was freezing cold, and you're probably all thinking, why bother doing this in the winter if you're just going to moan about how cold it is all the time? But I get it. The winter series, it's always tough, and it's always going to be tough. It's winter time, but to catch in winter, it means a lot, really. Do you know what I mean? Because of how tough the situations are, not only just with the filming front, but obviously the fishing front. It can be really tough, and yeah, if you're showing that you can get out there and still catch in them tough conditions, I think it says a lot, for the bait, I suppose, for DNA. So yeah, I do get the winter series, even though that I love to whinge about how freezing cold it is all the time. So Farlows, I knew it was going to be tough, so I thought, going to have a laugh with it, do you know what I mean? And have a laugh we did. Me and Bonesy, we had an absolute epic time over there. It was absolutely hilarious, and just such a lovely guy to get out with his Bones and go and fish with him. Yeah, he's a top man, and yeah, to have caught at that 20-pounder at sort of 3:30 in the morning, and that was tough in itself, trying to film that in the middle of the night, but we had a good laugh. I think that come across on camera, and yeah, it was a really good session as well, that one was. So yeah, then moving on to the bonus edition, obviously me and Dan had won the competition on Facebook that we run to fish alongside me in the Alamo swim. Conditions look tough from the minute go when we're in the Alamo, but that gets me going anyway when you're here, because it can look horrendous at Orchid, but don't let that put you off. I've caught here when there's been ice in the margins. I've caught here when it's looked horrendous and you haven't seen a single thing. I've still caught fish out of Orchid. So, I was still really confident when we went into the Alamo. And unfortunately for Dan, it's a long old trek for Dan. It's, he lives in Cornwall. So it's a 4-hour drive for him to come down to fish Orchid. And the nutter had missed it. He'd booked a holiday to Italy and cancelled that holiday to come fishing that trip. Unbelievable, unreal. So I let him have the choice of what side. Don't mind what side I fish when you're fishing in the Alamo. Both sides just as good as each other in my eyes. And yeah, Dan chose to go on the left hand side, I went on the right hand side, and yeah, it was a good session. Even though unfortunately we didn't catch, said to Dan, let's have a reshoot, we'll get back out. Might not get back into the Alamo swim, but we'll get back out anyway. The conditions were tough, I must admit. it was cold, but I didn't let that put me off. And that brings us up to the point now where second week of March at the moment, it looks mega out there at the minute, and yeah, I'm adamant that something's got to happen for me or Dan this session, so fingers crossed it does. In the meantime, I'm going to finish my brew and pray to the carp gods that we can end this winter series on a high. Well, good morning. It's actually the last morning of this session, and it's been a difficult one at that. It's been really tough when I feel like it shouldn't have been as tough as what it was, but it's one of them. When I'd obviously said to Steve and Jace at DNA when we had the write-off on the first trip over in the Alamo swim, they sort of said to me, why, go somewhere where you can, you're sure of a few bites. And I thought, Orchid can be absolutely mega. when orchids fishing, like it generally does a lot of the time, especially in the winter, it's the place to be, you know, and some of the sessions you can have here are just absolutely mega. So it was a bit of a risk on my behalf. Obviously Dan, he travels all the way down from Cornwall as well, so it's a long old trek for him to come here. And yeah, it was always going to be a little bit of a risk coming back to Orchid to do the reshoot, but you know, I felt like it was the right thing to do, and luckily enough this morning it was the right thing to do. So yesterday evening, James, the lad that was in New Middles, swim next door, he'd caught one just as he was packing up. He had a beautiful 16-pound mirror, real lovely scaly fish, and he'd actually caught that on a hook bait that I'd recommended to him that I know that the orchid fish love in here, which is the PB pop-ups. They absolutely love a PB in here. I've caught countless amounts of fish out of orchid on the PB pop-up. So yeah, recommended him to use those hook baits, and yeah, come up trumps for James. It was actually his very first orchid fish he's ever had, and I think he's been here a couple of times as well to try and catch an orchid gem. And yeah, what a gem that was. You know, that sometimes it doesn't matter about size, especially when they look that beautiful. So yeah, James was buzzing, and where Dan was doubled up with me in Middles, he decided, right, I'm going to move into New Middles. So yesterday evening Dan moved into New Middles, freed up a little bit of the water out in front of me here, and yeah, this morning 5 o'clock left, well, say 5 o'clock, at about 3 o'clock last night, a swan, the swans that are on Orchid, everyone will know they're very territorial. It's quite funny watching the boys out there with their bait boats as well. The minute someone puts a bait boat in Orchid, swans ain't happy about it, which is funny. So anyway, a swan was chasing something around last night. I don't think it was a bait boat, but something else must have landed on the lake. He weren't too happy about it. He's come charging through the swim and wiped all 3 rods out at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, sort of gets up a bit, all blurry-eyed, looking at the rods, and they're everywhere, you know, the rod butts are up and everything. Oh no. So, re-chucking all 3 rods in the dark. 2 of the rods are out on one spot, which is directed straight at the L shape. So if you get in the middles, look at the L shape, from the middle swim, 21.5 wraps, dead at the hut is exactly where the spot is, and I've caught plenty of fish from that spot in the past as well. So wrapped it all back up, it's blowing a hoolie last night, whacked 2 rods back out there. I'm sort of pinging the line up out the water. That's another thing you can do as well, like if you have a re-chuck at night, you put your head torch on, put the rod tip down, sort of ping the line up on a sort of tight line, and you can tell what way the line's running out to see whether you've hit the spot as such, because obviously with it being 21.5 wraps out there, you can't quite see exactly where the lead lands. So, you know, a little tip for you is to sort of dip the rod tip under the water, ping it up out, and you can see where the line's running as the water drips off of the line. So yeah, got 2 rods back out onto that spot out there, and so what, an hour and a half later, left-hand rod's ripped off. I've shouted over to Dan. Dan's like, been wiped out again? I'm like, no. So I've got one. So he's come over, played this fish, real good battle with it. I was lucky because I'd literally just hooked the fish. Like, I think if it had had one more charge, I reckon I'd have lost it. It was just right on the edge of the lip. But yeah, I've never really had that with a 360 rig. Normally they're proper nailed, but yeah, right on the edge of the lip this fish was. And it swam into the net as well. Dan put the net down and this fish has just come and just swam straight into the net. Oh, just couldn't be any more lucky. I'm absolutely buzzing. So yeah, sun's come out now. Well, I say sun's come out. It's mega cloudy, looks moody, looks mega for it. Always does when you're going home, doesn't it? So anyway, the sun is up now. The fish is waiting in the sling. Just doing mine and Dan's very first tee of the day so we can wake up properly. I'm going to do these tees and get out my prize. Absolutely buzzing. Yes! Wicked. about that? For no better way to end what's been an epic winter series. As cold as it's been really enjoyable, this winter series. Winter Series 3, off to a flyer with Luke and Kev over at Nar Valley, and then ended with this absolute beautiful £27 5-ounce common from the Mighty Orchid. I'm absolutely buzzing, over the moon to have caught this fish. Caught on a PB pop-ups that have caught me so many carp out of Orchid. I know I've said that before, but they are a great hook bait for this place, and this is the reason why. What a carp! Yes! Thank you, darling. Mwah. Yes! So then, dude, it's all come to an end after the second shoot anyway. You enjoyed it?
Oh, I loved every minute of it.
Have you?
Just been grateful to have a second chance, really, to give it a good go. Like, first time was really tricky,
Yeah.
and second time's been tricky, but
It has. It's not mega as well, isn't it?
mega.
It has looked really, really good for it. Unbelievable that we haven't had more bites, to be
I
fair.
know.
But you're going to stay on for another night?
Yeah, I'm going to do another night. I'm going to follow you in here,
Yeah.
and hopefully get one for you to upload. And,
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Well, like I say, if you do catch one, send us photos, and we'll overlay it onto this video. And no, it's been nice meeting you. Thank you
and
for all
you,
the
mate.
travelling that you've had to do and everything.
Anytime.
Cool.
Loved every minute of it. And,
Good.
Thanks to you and all the guys at DNA for giving me the chance, and totally appreciate it.
My
Massive.
pleasure, mate. My
Yeah, it's
pleasure.
been awesome.
Top
Thank
man.
you very much.
Cheers,
mate.
dude. Thank you, mate.